All right, I think we're ready to get started. Thank you everybody for joining us today. I just want to welcome you all to our conversation with Cat Clay and JMV Ceramics, a virtual program in this year's M&T Bank Clothesline Online Festival. This festival has been the Memorial Art Gallery's largest fundraiser for more than 60 years, and although we've had to go virtual this year, our goals are still the same. We want to highlight and support the arts and our artists. So thank you all for joining us today. I just want to mention a few brief housekeeping items before I hand it over to our presenters today for their conversation. We have a live captioner with us today. So if you would like captions during today's presentation, you can click the closed captioning CC button at the bottom of your screen. After today's webinar, there will also be time to answer questions that you've submitted for both Cat Clay and JMV Ceramics. To submit your questions, just click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And then finally, at the end of today's webinar, your browser should take you to a short survey about your experience, and we'd love to know what you thought about our webinar today. So it's my pleasure now to introduce Sabra Wood and Jessie Marianacci Valone. Sabra Wood is the, and I quote, mediocre spokesperson and sole employee representing Cat Clay this afternoon. Cat Clay is currently owned by Beckett Wood, a beautiful calico cat. Miss Beckett is the reincarnation of Cat Clay's founder, Clifton Wood, who we have represented by a little face mask here. There's Clifton, the original founder. Cat Clay makes both pottery and sculpture that tell stories, solve everyday problems, and are totally obsessed with kitties. We also have Jessie Marianacci Valone with us. She started in clay about 8 years ago when she took an elective class at school. She switched her major the next semester and has been working in clay ever since. She currently lives in the Finger Lakes Hills with her 3 pups and creates in her studio at home. Function plays an important role in her work. So Sabra and Jessie, I'll pass it off to you guys now to talk about all things ceramics.
Wow, thanks for that great introduction. Appreciate it. Hi, Jess.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm okay. You know, we're all about form and function. Are you eating or drinking anything at the moment?
So I have my tea.
Oh, I know that mug. That's one of your beauties.
One of my favorites.
I was actually going to start drinking, but I haven't yet. But I have my tea.
Nice.
And one of my favorites. And I am snacking on goldfish because they're Beckett's favorite.
Nice.
Out of a Gail Irwin bowl.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Oh, well, that's good. So we had an introduction to Miss Beckett, who is probably the naughtiest kitten on earth. Beautiful and ever so naughty. Tell me about your gorgeous, gorgeous dogs.
So I have 3 pups, but they are in another room because they will be barking nonstop because if I talk, they think someone's here. So I have a little picture of them. But I have 3 labs. One's 14. One's 14, one's 9, and one's 2. So a little bit of...
That's a great fur family.
Oh, yes.
I think we should take breaks throughout our chat to vanish some of the stuff we make. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
What do you want to go with?
Let's see. What should I start with? So this jar is one of my favorites. I made this at Pedland.
Oh, that's a beauty.
I don't know if you can see it all right. It's soda fired. So I've been having fun with these little knobs.
And is that on nichrome wire?
Yeah. So this
Cool.
wire, I fire right in the clay. So this was in the soda kiln at Penland.
How much did you love Penland?
Oh, it was amazing. So amazing. Have you been?
I have not. I've always wanted to.
So great.
Put it on my list?
For sure.
Okay, so you showed a jar. What am I in the mood for? Well, I better start with a cat or Beckett will have my guts for garters. You know, it's almost Halloween.
Ooh,
So you have your basic bat cat.
Love it.
There we go.
Love it. That cat.
How about if we tell folks how we made our way to ceramics? What do you think?
Okay. Sounds good.
Me first, you first?
You first.
Okay. Well, I took one class as an undergrad in beautiful downtown Ann Arbor decades ago. And then in 2001, my brain decided to go on a vacation without me. So my executive function dropped to the 4th percentile. And that transformed my brain from Spotify to an 8-track tape that had been crumpled up and run over and left outside on the freeway.
Wow.
Right. So I knew I couldn't stay at home all day, and I knew I couldn't shop all day. So I started taking clay, and I did clay at Flower City Art Center and at RIT and with Steve Merritt and with the fabulous Richard Airney.
Nice.
And then decided to form a group studio and then went out on my own. That's it.
Cool. That's awesome.
That's a story. I'm sticking to it. How about you?
It's an addicting medium, isn't it?
It is. It's delayed gratification, but you know, basically with luck, you're making money for getting filthy.
Right. Right. Head to toe. Filthy.
Tell me your clay story.
My bun is usually white on the top from my clay bucket.
Isn't that the truth?
This motion, you know.
And I always have holes on my t-shirts right here for where I bend forward and the wheel hits it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know, yeah. That's it.
Yep.
So how did you get into clay, Jess?
So I also took an elective at school, and found myself spending way more hours in the clay studio than anywhere else, really. So decided, you know, I think this is my thing. I think I finally found it, and took an apprenticeship, did some internships, went back to school, the whole bit, and here we are. 8 years later. 8 years? Yeah.
So glad you did.
Me too. I can't imagine doing anything else, really. So.
Okay, so we've been saying how wonderful clay is. What's your favorite part?
I think just the tactile quality of the clay itself, the material, you know? Like there's so much you can do. And I've done, you know, mold making, wheel throwing, hand building, sculpture, but the wheel is like my main, you know, way I make work. But
It's your jam.
yeah, I enjoy and appreciate all of it. I do miss the hand building, like this. I keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I love this feeling. Yeah, slab building, like I do that too, but I guess
Maybe that's why you like those bead handles.
yeah, it could be. They're fun
Yeah.
to hold. Especially this one, because it has a little texture on it from the soda.
See? Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah.
What's your favorite?
Well, not too surprising, I guess. It's the design and engineering of it.
Mm.
When I have a form in mind, there are a lot of ways to get there.
For sure.
And do I want to slip cast it? Do I want to hand build it? Do I want to throw it, cut it apart, put it back together again?
Mm-hmm.
And God help me, if it's supposed to be on the wall, I better start thinking early about how it's going to hang.
Right, right.
And of course, with the images I make, oh my Lord, it's all about hours in front of the computer with Photoshop doing, you know, between 20 and 40 layers to get an image done. But I love that design engineering part so much, because at that point it's all, you know, lollipops and clear skies and fuzzy kitties. I think glazing is probably the most tedious for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got it down to a routine,
Mhm.
but I don't like spraying it over more than one day. So I tend to get up early and force myself at a march with music that has a beat,
Mm-hmm.
and put my phone somewhere else so I don't lose time to social media and bang through it.
That's exactly what I do.
Really?
Yes, it's exactly what I do.
When I was younger and more energetic, I could unload the kiln, wash things off, and glaze. Now I do the unload and wash the day before, and then hit the ground running the next morning.
Gotcha. That's smart though, because then you don't lose, you know, ammunition. Like you don't lose your, yeah. Because then by the end,
Yeah.
I don't want to glaze. I don't want to clean up, and that's one of the most important parts, like cleaning up your pots. So I lose my focus.
Cleaning up is
Smart.
so important.
Yeah.
If I can wrangle people to help wipe the backs of ornaments, because I'll glaze 70, 80 ornaments at a time.
Yeah.
I'm not proud, come on down.
Right.
I'm here.
Yeah.
But the rest, you want to do your own mug bottoms. I mean, that's really specific work.
For sure.
This little glaze line. You want it just the way you want it, right?
So it doesn't stick to the shelf and.
Well, and so when it's sitting on a table, it looks right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, no wonder we're so much alike. It's kind of scary. Fur babies, electives.
Right.
Oh my God, glazing.
Glazing.
Your glaze colors and layers and interaction are really rich. I love them.
Thank you. Most of it is done pre-glazing just because I've really developed my practice around the fact that glazing's not my thing. So it's mostly these are all under glazes because it's kind of a what you see is what you get, not, hey, I'm going to put this in the kiln and fingers crossed, So these are all put on before. So I kind of try to design, knowing myself. Started adding a little glazing, but,
Makes perfect sense to me. That delayed gratification of wondering, first, did the kiln fail?
Right.
I love those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Second, is this going to be the time finally that I have a shelf collapse?
Oh, yeah.
Not yet, but always scared.
Mm-hmm.
And then did the glazes do what they're supposed to do or they did last time?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yep, good times.
How about inspiration? I mean, your work is always evolving. I'm always excited to see what you've done next.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. What inspires me? Function is a huge, I keep looking over here because I have a pile of work here.
Let's see another piece.
Let's see. So this is one that's not done. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So this will go into my inspire piece, I guess. So I've been wanting to make these coffee sets, I guess. So like a coffee pot.
Ooh,
Lighting.
that's good looking.
So I've been dreaming about this coffee set. So I have this tray too. So I'm gonna eventually, there will be a set. So I'm always thinking function, how can I bring pots into day-to-day life to function well for people,
And to work well together.
Yes, exactly. How they interact with each other, how they interact with the user.
And how they fill that visual space, because the angles on that pot and the open parts of that tray, they're beautiful together.
Thank you.
And how the handle replicates the tray openings.
Yeah.
So cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So function's huge. The way colors interact, how the surface interacts with the forms, another huge thing for me. But inspiration, probably function.
And most people don't think about this, but we have to. That beautiful pot, we have to think from the beginning, how heavy will it be when it's filled with liquid?
Right. Exactly.
And then how does that affect the pourability?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, designing for everyday life, that's not easy. I always loved those Robin Hopper x-rays of hands on mugs.
That's cool.
It's really cool. And it starts to go, oh, no wonder I do that or I do this.
Right.
So I tend to go with big restaurant mugs.
Nice.
And I have a decent size hand and I can fit my hand in it. I can put my thumb on it. Hey, David. Yeah. And life is good. My work is mainly inspired by things I want in my life that I don't have.
Cool.
And by giving voice through images to what I'm feeling and thinking. So for example, ring holders.
Nice.
Really fun to make because the bottom piece is from a slab.
Cool.
And this is thrown and then they're put together and it's all magic.
Oh.
And you just hope that the stilts don't fail. That's what holds it up. So it doesn't go boom.
Very cool.
So form in my everyday life, form and function, but then it's all about politics and snark and animals I love. So I'm kind of obsessed with this plate.
Ooh.
It's the story is all about the octopus, one of the most intelligent creatures on Earth,
Mhm.
defeating 3 subs, which are aptly named Soviet shark subs.
Gotcha.
And it's my obsession with why this triangle fits on this square.
Yeah.
And the plate changes completely every time I get a new piece of vintage, because this is vintage china
Very cool.
that I refire to about 2000 degrees.
Okay.
And I'll get up real quick. Every time I run out of a pattern, I have like heartbreak, and then I have to look for a new, it's kind of like dating and breaking up and then dating again.
There you go.
So it changes completely
Awesome.
depending on what the underlying plate is.
Right. That's so cool.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Very cool. So where do you find the plates, the vintage plates?
Well, I have friends who thrift a lot. In the old days, the Ronald McDonald sale. I have another friend who runs estate clearouts and sales. So he's always sending me photos.
Nice.
And it's the luck of the draw, right? I've got this basement full of vintage china, and I'll have an image and I'll go downstairs and say, I need a good marriage. Come on, guys, mating game. Let's do this.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
So that's my life.
I love it.
Yeah. Lots of record keeping,
Yeah.
because they all fired to different degrees.
Yeah. Right. I know. How do you find that out? Like,
Failure, repeated failure. Oh, it's good for me, right? I mean, that's what clay is, though.
for sure.
Don't we learn more from clay mistakes than successes?
Definitely.
Don't do that again.
I'll say I'm much more patient now, I guess,
Yeah.
than I was 8 years ago, maybe.
The other thing that really inspires my work is politics, morality, current events. So John Lewis's mugshot from when he was arrested in 1963 in Atlanta at the Tuttle House sit-in. So, I mean, he's a personal hero, and just finished this one, so I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah,
Very cool.
that's my life.
I love it.
Yeah, we've been talking some about the challenges, and I think it's really important, because I don't know about you, but people look at me and say, oh, you're a self-employed artist. Well, I wish I could do that. Your time is your own. You get to do what you want all the time.
All the time.
Do you get that?
Yes.
But
Especially,
you know, the challenge is real. What are some of the challenges you've faced?
putting yourself out there is hard. That's,
Ugh,
especially initially. It's scary, you know.
it is.
They're babies, and it's hard to put that out to the world, you know.
And price them.
Oh, that's the worst.
Ugh, it's awful.
Absolute worst. For sure.
Yeah, so I actually had someone coming into my space last year, this very nice woman, you know, maybe in her 50s, and in all sincerity, with the sweetest voice, she said, you used to make such nice things.
Yikes.
And
Ouch.
I said, thank you very much. Because what are you going to do?
Right. Ouch.
Glad she was happy then. Glad I'm happy now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten that before too.
No.
Yes. I
Um,
loved this that you made. Do you have any more of it? It's like, no. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Go
Any
on.
challenges recently? What's up?
Not having shows is hard. You know,
It is.
strange. So, kind of going day by day, you know. Like,
Although looking out today, I was thinking, oh God, I'm so glad I'm not on the grounds of my beloved Memorial Art Gallery and setting up display at 7 a.m.
yeah,
in the rain, in the cold, in the almost dark.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, I miss it,
Yeah, me too. Me too.
but having a wet Sunday is the worst. You hope for a wet Saturday
Yeah,
because your wonderful diehard fans will come out no matter what.
right.
But a wet Sunday, no one has time to pivot.
Right. A nice 70-degree sunny Sunday.
Oh.
Always good. you know.
Perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So no shows. That is a challenge.
It's hard.
No shows is really hard.
For sure.
My real challenge has been that I've been able to produce creativity. Until this John Lewis ornament, my creativity has just been bad.
Yeah, same.
I thought I was going to learn how to draw. I thought I was going to learn enamels. I thought I'd have all these new designs because I always have more ideas than I have time, but wah, wah.
Mm-hmm. Same. It's hard to feel inspired when there's so much going on, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is really hard.
Especially at first, it was really hard. I've started making a little more, but the inspiration's not flowing.
And I don't know about you, but we both use the wheel to produce things.
Yeah.
And trying to throw on the wheel when you're not centered yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That's like crazy making. Everything is like garbage.
Yes. Wonky, off center.
Yeah. Kind of like me. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's hard. That's hard.
I don't know if you knew I had stitches in my hand this spring.
What?
Yeah, right after COVID started. I have this fly that will not leave me alone. I got in a fight with a glass window because I live in an old farmhouse, so we're always, you know, doing projects, whatever. So it's a single pane glass. So I had to get 6 stitches in my hand right here, which is your,
yes,
you know, it's like one of your tools. So I was off the wheel entirely for a good 2 months, I want to say. So that also didn't help things, but
how does it feel now?
Timing, I guess, you know, it's better.
Yeah, that's right. If you're going to be down.
Right. It's better. The muscle is still a little tender sometimes.
Yeah.
I've been able to throw more than like 5 pounds, I think was the max this week. So I'm getting there.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I hurt my hand once and I found that I adapted by going to much softer clay, which was interesting.
Gotcha.
And a lot less water.
Gotcha.
So hard. When I'm away from clay for more than 4 days, I always think we'll be able to grow again.
I know.
I get so insecure.
Right. My hands start to like craving something. Like I used to do puzzles all the time because I needed something for my hands until I found clay. So
I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally do. So I know that you love to garden.
Mhm.
How are the veggies?
They are great this year. More so, some more so.
Are they?
Zucchinis are crazy this year. Tomatoes are crazy this year. My cucumbers, not so crazy. They kind of ran away on me, but you know.
So what are you doing with all that excess food?
Well, a lot of friends and family have gotten beans and zucchini and tomatoes and cilantro, you know, trying to share a little. It's just my husband and I, so you can only eat so many zucchinis in a week.
But that's a great gift to the community, providing fresh, wonderful food. And then what do? Well, you know, I spend a lot of time on my baby charity sample soap. The need for toiletries is more than ever. And the supply has been difficult because of fewer volunteers going into the agencies. But so happy that Memorial Art Gallery is a collection point, and especially during clothesline. You know, when you go to the gallery for all the wonderfulness, take some toiletries. And also, I'm working with the protesters on being a driver and gathering up donations and driving them to distribution points.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, it makes this whole horrible time more bearable by somehow being involved in it constructively.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, and then I love truckers. because I'll get calls in the middle of the day from a trucker with a pallet of rice-a-roni or a pallet of fresh raspberries, and for some reason it was refused. And I get to scramble with the agencies in town on who can take a forklift and who lives on a road that an 18-wheeler can come down, and got a walk-in fridge.
That's so cool.
Oh, those are wonderful moments. I love them to bits. Yeah. How are we doing on time? Does anyone know? I turned off my phone.
1:30.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well. So we still have about 30 minutes left in the hour. I know I have started compiling some questions that I have for you guys. And just a reminder to our listeners today that if you have any questions you'd like to ask Sabra and Jessie, I'll field those questions their way. We do have one that has come in already. Can I ask that to you guys now?
Sure, Bella.
Okay, so for both of you, do you start with a shape in mind for your pieces, or do you experiment? And I know that you've talked a little bit about the importance of function, Jessie, in particular for your practice. So I'm interested to hear how do you start with a shape in mind, or do you experiment?
You want me to take this one first, Sabra?
Sure, and I'll follow.
I usually start with a function in mind, I guess. So like a mug, I'd sit down with my sketchbook, or I'd research and then draw a bunch of forms first. And then I sometimes do paper cutouts just to see the form more in like a 3D state before I go to the wheel, So I guess I start with function, then I draw it, then I bring it to 3D. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I know a lot of people who just iterate on the wheel, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's not me.
I used to do that when I first started.
Yeah.
So many failures that I figured I needed a little more planning.
Well, and plus we're at the point now that we can do very intentional throwing.
Yeah, right.
We can see it on paper, we can make it.
Right, for sure.
So let's spend some paper time.
Yeah, exactly. It took me a while to get there though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Throwing is a slowly acquired skill.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I decided that I wanted to make a shot. I had this idea, since I love mug shots so much, that I would make a big shot mug shot.
Nice.
And I thought about it a lot. And the thing that I always hate about shots, now that I do shots much now, is the throwing back of the neck, because my neck's not interested. And sometimes it would throw high, and it was a disaster. So I started thinking about holding it in my hand and what it would feel like and what it would look like. And then from that, how would I actually make it? And I came up with this design. This is our very own Abby Wambach for her DWI in Oregon in 2016. By the way, hero.
Mm-hmm.
Only professional athlete I know who said, I did it, it was wrong, I'll never do it again, and you should hold me to a higher standard. Bless her heart. So if you look at it this way, it's got these slopey short edges, right? And that means that instead of throwing one's head back, you can do this.
Ooh.
That looks nice.
It clears the nose.
Right.
And then once I came up with that, I said, this would be a very good slip cast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and took a great class with, oh my God, Kelly Justice.
Yes.
That was scary for a moment. With the fabulous Kelly Justice, who helped me bring it to reality.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I have a follow-up question for those of us who aren't as familiar with ceramics. What does slip cast mean?
Oh, well, let me get down a couple of pieces to demonstrate that are right in front of me. I'm sitting at a table in my kitchen where I put ribbons on everything. I do my bookkeeping, I apply images. And so I have a shelf with beautiful objects to look at. Let me get down another one, which isn't slip cast, but Beckett will kill me if I don't show it. So this has nothing to do with slip cast and everything to do with the divine Carolyn Dilcher Stutz. This was a piece that she surprised me with as a little memento mori for Cliffy.
Oh,
So slip casting is when you make a plaster form and you pour liquid clay in it, let it sit for a while as the plaster absorbs the liquid, and so the wall is building up, and then you pour out the liquid clay. And if you look at things around your house, you'll see things that have little lines that weren't completely removed, and that's where the molds join. So this is a piece by Kelly Justice, beautiful double-walled piece. She donated this to the soup benefit we do every year, and I bought it because I love it. And she taught me how to do this. This is a piece by Gail Irwin.
cool.
Really? So she would have made a mold this shape, poured in liquid clay, poured it out. Sounds easy. This one by Gail's interesting because it's got multiple layers of different colored slips. So she made it, just like I said, but then she went back and sponged through to the different layers. So you can see the green and the black and the yellow.
Very cool.
So that's slip casting 101.
Thank
Did
you.
I just add to that explanation, would you?
I think I have something here actually. Time out.
So I guess I have another question. I just don't know anything about ceramics and working with it as a material. In slip casting, does that mean that there's a bit of an air gap between the walls of what you're making? It's not like hollow between the two walls, for example, of the inside and outside of a bowl, if it's a slip cast.
Very good question. You typically aren't pouring slip into a channel that reflects the wall, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
You're pouring into a cavity, and as the clay dries up somewhere the plaster is, that's forming the wall, and you pour out the loose.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Was that accurate, Jess?
Yeah, I think so. It's hard to explain it unless you see it, because the plaster mold is going to absorb the water out of the clay, out of the slip. So then it's forming like a wall inside that, like in here. This kind of shows it. Like this would be
Yeah.
what's left in the mold, and you'd pour the excess out.
Gotcha.
It's hard to explain it, especially if you don't have the mold.
Show me that piece again. That's gorgeous.
So this was one of my first slip cast projects. It's super dusty. It was a 6-part mold, I want to say.
Woo.
And it fits together, so there's a little key on there. So we carved these out of plaster first. This was at school. So it's a piece of driftwood in a shell. So I carved these out of plaster first and then made the mold around them.
So
I
a master and then a mold from the master.
It's been a while.
It reminds me of a salt dog.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it would be great for salt on the side, on the kitchen counter.
I never thought of that. I made this 7 years ago, maybe. It's been a while.
Nice.
On slip casting, but Kelly's a great one to take a class with. I'm jealous. She was my teacher, Alfred. For
She's
entire class.
calm. She's upbeat. She's knowledgeable. Highly recommend.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Classes to take, Yeah, because she's a great teacher. So.
What else do you have for us, Bella?
Okay, I have a few more questions. So just another question for both of you. You've both talked about your practice and your process and what's important to you when you're creating pieces. But as artists, when did you decide that you wanted to move from just making because you enjoy making your clay works to having more of a business and selling your works and pursuing that path as an artist? I'll let Sabra, I'll ask you that question first, I guess.
Okay. Well, I did strategic finance and marketing for 25 years. And I have a CPA. So I was always driven by making my clay habit self-sustaining at a minimum. And, you know, spending time with Richard Aroney in his studio was just so fabulous, to starting to understand the clay, the business side of clay. I mean, he's so generous with his knowledge that was great. And letting me participate in his holiday show, that was just an eye-opener. So it wasn't that hard for me to apply my business skills to making clay into a business. The hard thing for me was the number of years it took for me to be comfortable calling myself an artist. Because I don't have a degree. I'm late to the game. Even the stuff I do now, a lot of clay people will say, well, you know, dude, that's not ceramics. And a lot of artists will say, well, dude, that's not art. So I'm kind of slipping and sliding between the two worlds. So yeah, getting to the point where I could comfortably say, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm an artist. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that you bring up. And that's something that has actually come up in another webinar with one of our artists, that something that I think a lot of people don't realize that are non-artists that is important for practicing artists is to have that confidence in yourself to say, yeah, I'm an artist. This is what I do. This is what I love. And I'm proud to say that that's what I am. And I think another element to that probably, and I don't know what you guys would have to say about this, but having a community of fellow artists nearby that you feel comfortable with, working with, and networking with, I'm sure that also helps elevate your confidence and helps you feel more comfortable being an artist in the community that you live and work in.
For sure. I mean, we have a great clay community and a great community of artists. You know, I have a little radio show that's all visual artists, and we've done 180 episodes. I don't know how that happened.
Wow.
But it's so important to build that confidence, because frankly, when you sign up to be an artist, you're signing up to be judged. Every single time you submit to a show, and you have to hope that the juror has any interest in this kind of stuff you do. Anytime you go to a show like Clothesline, anytime you open your studio door, you're opening yourself up for people to judge you. And, you know, when I was in finance, they judged my analysis, my output. Clay, it's different. They're judging my inside. They're judging my head and my heart. And putting yourself out there and knowing that people may be critical, it requires skin toughening.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another great point. Criticism is just a part of being a working artist, and you just kind of gotta bite the bullet and take it, I guess, or not, you know. But
or turn it into a positive. You know, say, all right, well, what can I take away from that? Jess, what's it like for you?
Starting or vulnerability?
Yeah, both.
Starting, I feel like I knew from the get-go I was gonna try to do this and make a business. Not that, you know, I have a long way to go on the business side of things too. But I kind of had that path in my head. You know, I can make this work. I love this so much. How can I make it work? And I didn't really see myself teaching. So I knew that this was kind of the avenue I was gonna have to go for. And I would say the scariest part is putting yourself out there. And thankfully I've had so many mentors over the years that have encouraged me and pushed me, and, you know, I've learned from their examples too, you know, like I've seen them do it. So it encourages you. And, but putting yourself, every single time you do something new, it's scary, because it's like, is this going to work? You know, I like it, but how's it going to be perceived, you know? So it's scary every time. Every new show is scary too. So, you know, like you said, you got to make your skin a little tougher, I guess, but.
And shows are so weird. I'll have a friend say, you should do this show. It's my best show. And I'm lucky if nothing breaks because I didn't sell anything.
Right. Right.
And then someone else says, don't do that show. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good show for me.
Right. Yes. That was one of my points I wrote down for challenges I face. Trying to find the right show, the right store, the right fit. I
Yeah.
guess. And it's different every year. I've only been doing this 4 years and I have noticed that. So, yeah.
For sure.
Wow. Do you feel like you have a kind of set criteria for the kinds of shows that you think work well for your work? Or is it, I mean, you said it's different every show and every year. I'm just wondering, are there any, guidelines that you have in your mind for when you're picking what shows you're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm learning, but yeah.
It's always a learning process as an artist.
For sure.
I have an expectation of making 10 times booth fee.
Okay.
So there are shows that really want me to participate, but they take 20%. And I'm like, I can't make 10 booth fee. And they're like, we're not charging you a booth fee. And I'm like, you're taking 20, it's just, that's a hopeless conversation. I also avoid the shows, art, beer, wine, art, motorcycles, craft. I don't want the n's. I want people who really want to come and see art.
Right.
So I pick those shows. And I pick shows where the folks who are running it love artists. So for sure, Memorial Art Gallery, I get there on Saturday at 6 a.m. and Patty Giordano is there and Meg Colombo is there and all of my favorite mag people are there, and they're all being warm and welcoming, even though I know that they are exhausted and have been working so hard. Or I'll give a shout out to Buffalo, to Jack Kraft. Sam Epps is one of the highest energy, most loving show organizers I know. And it shows in every detail of that event. And it's one day and it's in Buffalo and I love doing it.
I've heard great things about that one.
It's good.
What was the name of that show one more time?
Jack Kraft.
Jack Kraft.
By the fabulous Sam Epps.
That's awesome.
Yep.
We have another question from our audience today. Carol is wondering, could you guys tell us about your studios and do you share space away from home? I think you both have really interesting studio spaces. They're different.
Right, very different.
So Jessie, let's start with you.
First, so I live in a 200-year-old farmhouse. So when we bought the house, it was about 9 years ago. It was right when I started in clay, actually. So it just so happened we had an extra room. So I converted it into a studio, have my kilns in the garage. My house is full of pottery, as you can see. Like, it's literally everywhere. So it's here all the time, which is awesome. I don't have a commute. Like, I haven't been affected from COVID in that way, which I really feel for the artists that are in community spaces and they can't get to their work, because I feel like it's a very therapeutic, way to get through what we're going through. So I'm out of my house, so it's here all the time, but I'm also building a studio in my backyard.
Wow.
I built a barn, so I'll have, more space. I'll be able to turn the light off and shut the door and go home, instead of like home studio shop, which is awesome. I'm not complaining. It's great. I can be in my jammies in the afternoon because I come downstairs and go to work. But it will be nice to be able to have a space where, I can focus on the work and then I can get a break from the work. I think is important. But so I'm all by myself, me and the dogs.
That sounds pretty nice.
It's very nice. It's quiet and peaceful, but I do miss the community big time, because up until I started on my own, I had an awesome community in multiple places, but I definitely miss that side of it big time. So.
And Sabra, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about your studio as well?
Sure. I joined Richard Airney when he moved his studio space from Bloomfield to the Hungerford. And at that point it had 40% occupied. That's 40. So when First Friday program started, we hopped on it and started really promoting the people. When I told people that I was having my own studio on the second floor of the Hungerford, I got people laughing at me saying, you can't make a storefront work there, much less second floor.
Wow.
But marketing's something I understand. So we started organizing the building and putting on some First Friday programs. And now, you know, the building's at 100% occupancy with a waiting list, in large part due to the ability of folks to make rent often by being part of First Friday. I started in a group studio and then decided to go on my own. That was a real challenge. I didn't know if I could do it. I had always depended on others to do the tasks that my brain isn't very good at. But I found that, you know, throw enough planning at something and you can push it a pretty good way. So I've been on my own for, I don't know, maybe 5 years. I've been in the building, I think 14.
Wow.
Good Lord. I have a solo studio, but pre-COVID, there were a lot of people in the building, a lot of drama, a lot of wonder, a lot of fun. So it was kind of like, you know, making art in a junior high school. All the good times and some of the challenging times, but I really loved it. And it was hard. It was hard during COVID to feel safe leaving my home.
Right.
It was hard feeling safe going into a building that you weren't sure who had been in it right before you and did they have your same risk profile in practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I've settled down and I used to be going in 4 to 5 days a week. Now I'm going in a solid 1, maybe 2. But the rest of my practice is done at home. Again, you know, applying all the images and doing all the design and putting all those ribbons on all those ornaments. So many ornaments.
Awesome. We have another question from the audience for both of you guys. This is one I wouldn't have thought of, again, because I just don't know ceramics, but do you guys use gas or electric kilns in your work?
Electric.
I use electric and just, I don't know, what about you? When I'm not near gas, I love it. And when I'm not near electric, I love it. You know, I miss whatever I'm not using.
For sure. For sure. Dream would be soda kiln.
Yeah.
Soda or salt, you know, because the atmosphere is just so cool. But, you know, baby steps. Electric is, it's much more, like we were talking about before, when you open the kiln, like, did everything go okay? I've found it's much more reliable, too, which helps me sleep.
Yeah.
When a kiln's firing, you know.
My images are sensitive to a 50-degree changing temperature. So even in an electric kiln, I have to be really careful how I load it, where the image is versus the heating elements around the wall. But yeah, I fire electric, and there are benefits to electric for sure. It's a cheaper kiln to set up. It's an easier kiln to maintain. You can get a much wider range of color, but gas, oh my God, gas, you can get magic.
It's so fun too.
Yeah, you can get interactions. You can do celadons and tea dusts and just all of these hair fur, all of these moku. I mean, all these fabulous things. She knows all these fabulous things that may not ever sell,
right?
But they make potters' hearts go pitter patter, pitter patter.
For sure. For sure.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more question before we start wrapping up for today. And this is again for both of you guys. So what tips would you have for somebody who's just starting out in ceramics or thinks that they want to start using that as a material, both as artists and as a business? I think you both have really interesting backgrounds in how you got to where you are today. And what pointers, what tips, advice do you have for up and coming artists? Jessie, I'll throw this one your way first.
I would say if you have the passion and the love for it, stick with it. This fly will not leave me alone. It's, you're gonna have challenging days, but it's so, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. And perseverance, I guess, you know, just, I always say I'm stubborn. It helped me learn the medium. It's helped me take some of the, you know, knockdowns that I've gotten, that you're gonna run into. But at the end of the day, I would say it's worth it because I love it. I really do. So
Yeah.
that would be my, you know, and the clay community is amazing. Like, ask questions, reach out to people, you know, we're here to help, I guess. That's always been my experience. Potters are very nice and helpful, I guess is the word I want. Yeah, it's always been my case. I don't know about you, Sabra. Like,
Yeah, there are so few potters who are bad eggs that we all talk about the same one or two people.
right. And they're very generous with knowledge and information and want to help and see other people succeed. That's been my experience.
Me
So,
too.
yeah.
I guess what I would tell people is seek out a lot of different teachers because everyone has something different to teach you. And just because your first teacher said you have to do it this way, be open to other things. I had been throwing for quite a while when I took a workshop from Steve Merritt. And oddly enough, in the world of clay, if you're from the East, you throw with the wheel going clockwise. Clockwise, yeah, clockwise. But if you're in the West, you learn to throw with the wheel going counterclockwise. And in the West, they call the clockwise people throwing left-handed. But in the East, they say, no, most people, their dominant hand is their right hand. You form pots from the inside out. You want your dominant hand inside the pot. All I know is I took this workshop from Steve Merritt, and within 2 weeks, my pots grew exponentially.
Really?
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Cool.
But I went into it with an open mind saying, you know, Steve Merritt's a pretty smart cookie. And then I read up about it and I'm like, okay. So for me, it worked. Might not work for everyone, but the point is seek out lots of different instructors and be willing to learn and unlearn lots of things. Be prepared for lots of failure. It's not just whether you have a fire in the studio or a flood or your kiln breaks. It's also that your favorite clay is the material you depend on to make it no longer exists. You can't get it. And you've got to start testing to try to make something work again or walk away from it and say, I'm going to make something new.
Right.
The other thing, I know I'm a finance wonk, but kids, get out your pencil and paper and figure out, you know, what you think you can make and what you think it's going to cost, and share that business plan with people who know, because you don't want to have to leave clay because you made some bad assumptions. You want to be able to say, I'm leaving clay because I'm going to go do this, not because I have to leave it.
Right.
So set yourself up for success. Do some planning.
Great tips.
Well, Sabra, Jessie, thank you both so much for letting us listen and learn more about each of you and your work and your practice. I'm just going to share my screen here with some links for our viewers while we finish up today. So if you'd like to support Cat Clay and purchase some of their work, you can visit their website, catclay.com. Likewise for Jessie at JMV Ceramics at her website. And thank you all for joining us today. A few other things that we have to mention. We're doing sample soap donations. I see Sabra's wearing her sample soap t-shirt today. We usually do that at the MAG during clothesline in person. So please, next time you come to MAG this week, be sure to bring your sample soap donations for that. We'll also be sharing a recording of today's webinar later this week for those of who couldn't join, and for anybody who wants to watch this presentation again. And we just want to say thank you again for joining us and for supporting the museum. It's thanks to you guys that our programs are possible, and you can support us and find more programs for Clothesline at clothesline.rochester.edu. You'll also find all of our 2020 artist websites listed there, as well as our Clothesline t-shirt, our $15 off membership discount all week long. Sabra, I see you have your hand up.
Just wanted to give a shout out to Meg, not just for pivoting brilliantly on Clothesline, but Jessie and I are both in the Mag store, and Loretta and the crew love what you do, and thanks for supporting us.
Yes, I second that.
Yeah. Be sure to check out their work at the store. We also are doing a Visitor's Choice Award this year for Merit Awards, and you can find a link to vote for your favorite artist from our 2020 list. And again, after we end today, your browser should take you to an experience survey, so feel free to fill that out. We love feedback. And with that, I think we're all set with the hour. And thank you again to all of our attendees. Thank you, Sabra. Thank you, Jessie. Happy Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your afternoons.
Thanks, Bella.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.